Hello, hello, and welcome once again to Cryptic Corner, where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I am your host, Miss Bumblebee, and thank you so much for joining us this evening for another excellent installment of Cryptic Corner. This is going to be a weird one, okay? It's going to be a weird one. So, the topic on the docket today is near and dear to my heart. I grew up in a small Midwestern town, right? Like a tiny little Midwestern town. The town I grew up in has somewhere around between 3,500 and 3,800. I don't know. It kind of fluctuates. So, the little towns around us all had, some different folklore and stuff, whether it was a bog creature or something like that, which is, they refer to bog creature. The Missouri Monster, a little town in Louisiana that was about 40 miles south of the town I lived in, had the Momo, the Missouri Monster. It was very famous. Dave's from the Midwest too talks about the Grassman from Ohio. So a few different little towns all have these little scattered monster sightings. I always wished I lived in a town that had a monster sighting. But my little town, and I don't live there anymore. I'm happy to tell you the name of it. It's called Palmyra, Missouri, and I tell you the name of it because I'm going to pull it out. It's a little tiny town in northern Missouri. Still has a Confederate monument in front of the courthouse. That's how cringy it is. So, just to give you an idea what this town is. Anyway, this is a small town, and I lived there up until the 2010s, right? But we never had anything. It was made me sad. I could go around to little towns. Then in April of 2012, all that changed. All that changed for my little town because we got our own cryptid. Not a Yeti or Sasquatch, nothing like a chupacabra or anything of that nature. Not a living pterosaur or some kind of phantom night stalker, but a kangaroo. Authorities search for kangaroo said to have been spotted in Palmyra, Missouri. Palmyra police officers and Marion County Sheriff deputies were on the lookout Tuesday for a kangaroo on the loose. The Palmyra Police Department reported to have received a call Tuesday afternoon about a kangaroo near the intersection of East Hamilton Street and Leach Avenue, a few blocks west of US 61. And I know these streets, right? I grew up in this little town, so this was like blocks away from where I lived at the time, too. The two officers and two deputies searched the area for the animal but found no trace of them. Animals, plural. The kangaroos were reportedly about the size of a middle school child and were traveling together. Anyone who sees them is urged to call 911 or the Palmyra Police Department. This was in 2012. So, the idea of a kangaroo in a little small town is not unique to this town. No, it's actually a real phenomena. It's like something that happens, that people see, sometimes even catch on video. So, today we're going to go to this channel. It's called Crash Course Cryptozoology. And we're going to get a crash course in North American kangaroos. Let's do it. Let me know how the audio is. There's no sound here, though.
and welcome to Crash Course Cryptozoology.
Oh.
Today I would like to discuss a particular topic in cryptozoology that has not received much attention in more recent years, but, however, seems to persist nonetheless. In fact, the significant takeaway from this subject is its relatively hidden persistence. That is to say, I would like to discuss sightings, both past and present, of the American kangaroo. Recently, on the Crash Course Cryptozoology Facebook page, I linked an article about American kangaroo sightings in an attempt to simply fulfill the page's duty of informing people about cryptozoology as a subject for the day.
And just to be clear, you can look this phenomena up. It goes little towns all over North America have kangaroo sightings. So
became more than that, however, when two people who are in my social circles at that came out with kangaroo sightings of their own. I was lucky enough to get permission from both of them to allow them to publicly narrate their stories, thus putting them on record.
Didn't you used to drive long haul back? You never saw a kangaroo when you were out on those lonely highways at night? Where's Al Trucker? Is Al Trucker in here? Al's probably seen those Canadian kangaroos. You can tell they're Canadian. Let's hear some ways you can tell a kangaroo is Canadian in the live chat. I want to see some good jokes on how you can tell a kangaroo is Canadian. I was going to say it has a little syrup tap on its pouch, but let's hear what you got.
For the very first time. Before we get into those interviews, and to slow down to a more comprehensive pace for a bit, it's proper that we first gain an understanding of what exactly is meant by American kangaroo.
Spooky, for real. There was a small colony of wallabies near me that grew from a bunch that escaped from the zoo decades ago. We're going to talk about that on this video. Don't you worry. We're going to get to that.
To clarify, American kangaroo is not a title that refers to some kind of offshoot species that used to exist or anything of that sort. American kangaroo simply refers to the strange phenomenon of witnesses seeing kangaroos in North America. Kangaroos, of course, are marsupials that are confined only to the continent of Australia. As far as is known, aside from acclimation by zoos, there is no mainstream non-black market kangaroo trade.
Ring says Kalispell, a small town a couple hours north of me when I lived in Montana, had some escaped kangaroos before I moved. Yep, we're going to talk about escaped kangaroos in detail. And I've drove all 48 contiguous states. Yeah, and you've never seen a single kangaroo or Sasquatch? Not a bunny, or I guess you don't see a bunny up in North America. But you can see a kangaroo, you can see a bunny up, right? No, but no chupacabras. You've never run across a thunderbird feeding on a carcass on the side of the road. Mothman's never spread its wings in your headlights. I don't even know what to take it. How to take that back.
The question, of course, for many of these witnesses is, what is a kangaroo doing in North America? Over the timeline of sightings, which many
Canadian roos hold hockey sticks. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, give me those roo jokes.
Sources say lasts about 200 years in the documentation. There have been many proposed theories as to what it is people could be seeing. Escaped exotic pets and missing zoo animals ranking among some of them. There are, however, certain sightings that would suggest something different might be going on. Although sources claim that kangaroo sightings go back as far as the late 1800s, the most well-documented ones are...
Yeah, as soon as people started traveling with kangaroos and menageries, yeah, kangaroos started escaping. And you know what's interesting thing about the Great Plains and also the southwest of the United States? Great habitat for kangaroos. I mean, they don't get the exact diet that they need probably, but they can exist. That's a raccoon. Were you talking about the kangaroo he had up on screen? I think that was a kangaroo. This one? That is a raccoon. Sure looks like a kangaroo to me, or a wallaby. Probably an escaped pet, in my opinion. But
although sources claim that kangaroo sightings go back as far as the late 1800s, the most well-documented ones are those that take place in the mid to late 20th century. Particularly, a sighting stream from the 1970s documents that a Chicago police group actually followed a kangaroo.
American kangaroos keep guns in their pouches. Boom. Yeah, let's do that too. Give me some American kangaroos. We could do some British kangaroos because there are kangaroo sightings in the UK too. In Europe. So I mean, this is a global phenomenon. It's just prominent in North America. I think it's because kangaroos can actually eke out an existence in the North American biome. Sorry about your eye drops. I hope your eyes get better soon, Porpoise. Not anything but the usual fox, deer, bobcat, etc. Have you ever seen a moose? That'd be cool. Or a bear. Maybe an elk. Mountain lion. See, there's animals that people don't see too often. Even spending all their time on the road, people rarely see a cougar. Right, a mountain lion, you won't hardly see them unless they're dead on the side of the road.
For a certain amount of time before losing the animal, and that subsequent sightings were reported in both Illinois and Indiana. Some have even posited that American kangaroo sightings might be responsible for some of the more anomalous or Fortean cryptids North America is familiar with, such as the Jersey devil or devil monkeys.
Have you seen I actually bring up my devil monkeys to show them to you. My devil monkeys are so cute. Let me see. Do I have them? Really? I didn't. Yeah, anyway, I'll pull them up somehow.
Not all of the American kangaroo subject, however, is so cryptic and vague. There is, under the surface, some very compelling evidence, such as a piece of footage from 2013 shot by a group of hunters in Oklahoma that, without doubt, shows a kangaroo.
We're goose hunting right now, and there's literally a kangaroo getting ready to fucking jump by us. Oh my god, this is insane.
Here it goes. Yeah, check this out.
There it is! There it is! Oh my god. Here it comes. There it is!
That is definitely a kangaroo. I'm watching.
I would like to posit that alongside things like this shows a kangaroo.
We're goose hunting right now, and there's literally a kangaroo getting ready to fucking jump by us. Oh my god, this is insane. What in the crap is going on? There it is! There it is! Oh my god. Here it comes. There it is! There it is! It's a fucking kangaroo!
I would like to posit that alongside.
Now, before I let him go on about this, I do want to say that from my research into this, because I do research these things, I did look into this, and it was that's not that one. Hold on, there was another one that was captured, but where is it? Yeah, this one. The kangaroo was an escaped exotic, as you can see right there. It was eventually reclaimed by its owner. I think this is
We're goose hunting right now, and there's literally a kangaroo getting ready to jump by us. Oh my god, this is insane. What in the is going on? There it is! There it is! Oh my god. Here it comes. There it is! There it is! There's a kangaroo!
I would be the same way, though. I would, for real, I'd be squealing and screaming. Yeah. Anyway, this was another one in Oklahoma. After exploring the local area, the escapee eventually returned to its enclosure with a bit of assistance from a human chain.
Enjoy more in 2024 with Sky Sports.
Adam Sport. Why are you giving me sports ads? You think a targeted ad would be like, hey, here's some kangaroo stuff. Look at that, he's so cute. He's like, what are you following me for, bro? Just doing my kangaroo stuff. Leave me alone. Aww. He's so cute, though. Will you guys get me a kangaroo? Just one. A giant one that'll fit in its pouch. And it can hop around and I'll be like, woo! Come on. You better get moving, little Roo.
Get out of the way.
Yeah, anyway. Let's continue.
Things like this piece of footage, we should consider recent eyewitness testimony as something significant to this subject. This is not an old myth that has since dropped off. Sightings seem to be...
Sandy, rogue roos are on the table for the day. Hello, native atheists. Yeah, we're looking at kangaroos in North America.
Still continuing, and if the formerly undocumented nature of these two reports is anything to go off of, there may be more sightings than we would assume. I will now share the interviews with the two newer witnesses, who are Eli Watson, the host of the cryptozoology podcast Cryptid Campfire, and Jeremy Sanborn, a diver who I have worked with on the documentary released about Ed film.
I was around 8 or 9 years old, and we were leaving, if I recall correctly, the zoo. And it was around dusk, and so we were driving in a Suburban at the time. I was sitting in the middle row, directly behind my mom, who was in the passenger seat on the right side. And I was looking out the window, and just towards this hill that was on our, right side, and, there's bushes here and there, and I felt like I was staring at this one bush, and I couldn't make out what made this bush different, because it looked, to me, like all the other bushes. And then it just kind of sprung up and started hopping away, in the same direction as our car, I think I should add. And so I was able to observe it for, I want to say 5 seconds before we eventually sped past it, but I was like, whoa, that's a kangaroo, thinking in my head, and my mom echoed that statement out loud. She was like, oh shit, it's a kangaroo. And, if I had to guesstimate how far away it was, I would...
You said you were leaving the zoo. I kind of wonder if it was an escapee, because you're near a zoo. So if I was near a zoo and I saw a kangaroo, I wouldn't be like, oh, it must be a native kangaroo that's a mystery species or something. It's probably escaped from that zoo we just left.
I'd say, about 100 yards. It wasn't very close. It wasn't very large either.
The British kangaroos are convicted felons sent from Australia. Australia sends their felon kangaroos to Britain. Oh, let's see, what do we got here? I actually did see a Pennsylvania brown bear once at a cabin. A group of hunters was nearby hunting cabin, was illegally baiting it off of season. That's terrible. Those Pennsylvanian, they get huge in those woods. And they are brown. There's actually a species of black, or a subspecies of black bear, but they are brown, and they're called the Pennsylvanian brown bears. But they get absolutely massive. I saw some in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. It's funny, we spent the whole day in the Smoky Mountain National Park, like the whole day hiking in the national park. We didn't see anything. Come back to downtown Gatlinburg that evening, and there was freaking bears all over town. Like we have raccoons here, like going through looking for trash and stuff, especially in the tourist district where people like throw, their caramel apples and all that stuff that they get down there on the strip. Throw all their waste away through those cans.
I'm not exactly an expert on how large kangaroos are, but it didn't look too much bigger than the bushes that were around. It was definitely significant enough for it to stand out to us, but it also did really blend in with the kind of the other bushes. It's like a tannish gray. It's kind of like this dead bush color, I guess, to describe it.
Right. Now, the whole setting being just 5 seconds long, were any of the details that you could see on it, or was it just kind of this quick incident altogether?
It was just a quick incident. I mean, I thought I saw a tail. The legs were what stood out to me a lot. As far as the head goes, I don't really remember seeing much of the head. I just remember seeing it hopping, which is why I thought it was a kangaroo. I think that's why my mom thought it was a kangaroo. But yeah, I don't know. It was definitely strange.
Thought it was a kangaroo, or was it a kangaroo? Because you were leaving the zoo, right? You're leaving the zoo, so a escaped kangaroo seems to be the best option, unless it was. What else would be hopping? Maybe a deer, of course. That's what a lot of people said the kangaroo that people were seeing in Palmyra was, or the two kangaroos, or whatever. I'm no kangaroo expert, but isn't there two types, red and gray? I don't think I'm confusing them for a squirrel, or with a squirrel. So with kangaroos, yeah, there's red and gray kangaroos. The red kangaroos are much bigger. There's other kangaroos too, though. There's more than just the two species of kangaroo, though. How many species of kangaroo are there? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there's the eastern gray kangaroo and western gray kangaroo are two different species. Okay. So there's the three species of kangaroos, but wallaroo and wallabies are. I mean, they're this not too much difference. It's a size difference, and then there's tree kangaroos, which are unique in unto themselves. Let's see. Looking at the family tree here. The wallabies, I guess, would probably be more like what this guy's talking about seeing, though, because he's talking about being smaller.
Interesting.
And this was far away from the zoo, you mentioned, right?
Yeah, I think this is about 30 or 40 miles away from the zoo.
Yeah, not a place you'd expect to see the
I think
kangaroo.
it's still on the. Yeah, definitely not a place you would see a kangaroo. I don't think Southern California, San Diego.
Oh, 30 to 40 miles from the zoo, huh? That's interesting. That's quite a bit further than I would expect for it to have traveled if it escaped from the zoo.
Home to kangaroos.
It's pretty much not, from what we know. Yeah, exactly. That was the conclusion of Eli Watson's interview.
But SoCal is definitely a place where a lot of exotic animals are kept because of the mild climate. Like even like traveling menageries and stuff they'll overwinter in California, SoCal, or they'll overwinter in Florida. Because they need a place where like elephants and tigers and stuff like that can be comfortable without dying and getting sick. Tropical animals, I guess there's tigers that live in the snow, Siberian tigers, but that's not usually what you see in a menagerie. What you generally see is a Bengal tiger.
I will now play the audio from Jeremy Sanborn's interview.
So I was coming home, and it was about Washington Street, Leominster, and like there's not a lot of eerie woods around. Like if you go and walk in a couple roads, you can come out to some woods, but there's nothing like really like. So I'm pulling in, and there's a double garage that looked down the back at the edge of my headlights on the left side. Also, I see the sheet, and it was just there, and then gone, and it moved weird. Like I don't know, like you think something jumped. But the first thing that came to my
Someone's puppers is getting frustrated. I've heard kangaroos doing some effed up stuff to people's dogs. I'm not going to say what. Suffice to say, kangaroos are psychopaths. Yeah, otters will do some messed up stuff to dogs too. Otters will try to lure your dog to the water.
mind, I don't know why, it was freaking kangaroo. It's just how its posture was and stuff. I don't know, it's just.
But they don't just kill it. They also, well, I'll leave it up to your imagination what else they do.
In mind.
Right.
It was crazy. It was gray, and it wasn't like wicked dark gray, but it was gray, like say regular gray color. And I'd say probably like I don't know, 5 feet maybe. It was not a tall or just an animal in the yard, you know. That's what I thought it might have been a person. It wasn't really a person-ish, you know. It kind of like just went, disappeared like in a second. Like it was just there and then gone. So I don't know what it was, but it was strange. And like I said, the first thing I thought was a freaking kangaroo because I got out of the car, I looked around, didn't see anything, and like, what the hell? And then I went into the house and I asked my girlfriend at the time, like, did you ever any kangaroos escaping from somewhere? Because I swear I just saw one out in the yard. And she remembers the two I talked to her the other day. And I don't know, man, it was weird.
Yeah, it sounds weird.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I would have, you know, at first you would think, like, all right, person. But, you know, in the like fraction of a second I did see, I thought, you know, there's someone in my yard. But then, just how it moved and the way it looked, it just all of a sudden, like, kangaroo just came into mind. So, I don't know. Yeah, it was strange. I mean, it was something. I don't know if it was a person all dressed in gray and they jumped, you know, and they were kind of thick too. It wasn't like anything small. It was.
Sorry if I ruined anybody's adorable image of otters that they had in their head. Otters are, yeah, they can be cute too, though. When they're not, how do you put this? When they're not getting it on with dead canines.
Like a decent sized figure. And so yeah, but then I was with one of my buddies like a couple years ago, and he's talking to me, and he goes, and he's leading up, you know, the story. He says he's driving, and you know, all of a sudden this thing jumped in the road. I'm like, did you see a kangaroo? He said, yeah, I swear it was a kangaroo. It jumped across the highway, the road, it jumped over the barrier, and he's like, there's a kangaroo. And I'm like, I thought I saw a kangaroo too.
It is certainly noteworthy that both of these witnesses are people who have people in their lives that were either at or afterwards were able to corroborate the
It's also noteworthy that both of these people have cryptozoology podcast. Just saying.
sighting in some degree. What exactly this means,
But we might check out their channels though, because yeah, this has been a fun ride so far.
cannot be said for sure yet. These are not individuals who are prone to making up sightings. I see no reason to come to the conclusion that they would be dishonest about this, both of them being relatively humble in their telling of the story as much as was necessary. The subject of American or phantom kangaroos is a very strange one, not only by the fact that kangaroos themselves are rather strange animals, but by the fact that of all places to see one, North America is certainly one of the strangest. And I would love to know what all of you think of these phantom kangaroo sightings. Or, perhaps, if any of you have your own stories to share.
So, like, most of us grew up. We may not even know it with the idea of the escaped kangaroo archetype in our brain. And you may not even realize it. I don't know if most of the people that I grew up around and that were friends, we up until at least the 80s, we grew up with the cartoons, the Looney Tunes. And one of the characters in Looney Tunes is an escaped kangaroo, right? An escaped North American kangaroo. Because Sylvester, I think Sylvester, maybe Wile E. Coyote and Bugs Bunny. I don't know. Other characters interacted with it too. But there's a kangaroo that escapes, and they keep mistaking it for they think it's a mouse, right? And then Sylvester goes in to get it because he's got his son. He's like, oh, go teaching his son to hunt mice, right? And he keeps going in to get the mouse, and it's not a mouse, it's a kangaroo, and it keeps whipping his ass. So we get that sort of same vibe when we go out and we see a animal that we can't identify. Maybe generally speaking, I don't want to throw people under the bus. I'm not trying to point out that I'll say it's city people or anything like that, but it'll be people who aren't used to seeing wildlife, and then we see a deer or some people say that they're seeing that they think their people are seeing like geese and stuff like that. I don't know if you can mistake a goose for a kangaroo, but definitely some animals like raccoons and possums might be, if just caught through foliage, mistaken for a kangaroo. Raccoons can hop around a little bit, and they're generally about the size of a wallaby, so not unheard of. But generally their behavior would be quite different, since kangaroos are herbivores and raccoons are generally opportunistic omnivores. So you would expect some different behaviors, but just like caught through the foliage, maybe. Anyway, the archetype, though, being stuck in our head from childhood, from cartoons that we watched as children, sort of cements that into your subconscious, right? I mean, you could also make the same argument for like Gossamer from Looney Tunes, the big red monster guy. Is like a Bigfoot-like creature. I had a second video here. I don't know if we're going to have time for it, though, because it's a lot longer. It's like 18 minutes.
July 2003. On a snowy evening, Sergio Gordy was traveling.
I think maybe if we speed it up quite a bit, we can get through it. Let's speed it up to 1.75.
On Route 3 in Punta Maria, Argentina. He was in a truck with 5 other family members. The weather was so bad that high beams were required to see. Suddenly, one of the family members pointed to what they thought was a horse on the road straight ahead. As they inched closer, they quickly realized that it was not a horse. Then, as they drove by it, the creature began chasing the truck using strange leaps and bounds that made it look like it was staying in one place, but it was actually moving at a high speed. It suddenly stopped on the embankment and jumped over the road in one bound, disappearing into the distance.
If it's so big that you mistake it for a horse, I don't think it's a kangaroo, my friend. Kangaroos are... This is in Argentina. Kangaroos are not as big as horses. Let me restart this from the beginning, maybe.
strange kangaroos. When it comes to the paranormal and kangaroos, they sort of fit into two categories. On one hand, you have these phantom kangaroos, these out-of-place kangaroos. People claim to see kangaroos in places where they're not supposed to be. People see them, they report them, but yet nobody can find any trace of them. And then you have these weird kangaroos that are sort of like hybrids. They're sort of like kangaroos. They look like kangaroos, or they act like kangaroos, but they're not kangaroos. So you do have that too. This video, I'm kind of focusing on the weird hybrid types.
Okay, so this is a different.
July 5th, 2008, Holly, Michigan.
A different biblical kind of kangaroo that are that don't behave like kangaroos. Oh yeah, I promised I was going to show you guys my. We'll wrap up on that because this kind of leads into like a devil monkey sort of.
Having dropped off a volunteer that he worked with at an art center in Davison, Donald Park, a pseudonym, was returning home. It was 4:41 a.m. He was driving slower than the posted limit, about 45 miles per hour, and he had his high beams on as he made his way down the lonely road. He suddenly eased on his brakes after spotting an exceptionally large creature digging in someone's trash next to the right side of the road, about 20 to 25 feet away. He continued to slow down almost to a near crawl, hoping to get a better look at whatever it was. Park was surprised to see just how tall it was, too huge to be any average animal that one would normally see in the roadside garbage bin at night. Uncertain of what he was looking at, Park began to make out that the creature was holding a piece of trash. It did not appear to have paws, but more slender, hand-like protrusions. It had huge, round, and red glowing eyes. Upon seeing Park, the creature reacted with a look of surprise. It was as if it thought no one would ever find out that it existed. At least that's the feeling Park got. For nearly 4 seconds, the creature stared at him while holding on to the piece of trash.
Sounds more like a giant eye right now, which would scare the hell out of me if I saw a giant eye standing in the woods. But his description so far has been sort of, there hasn't been too much said about it, what it looked like. Just his eyes glowing in the dark.
Trash. Its triangular light gray face reminded Park of a dog, but it was more pointed and triangular towards the end of the nose and mouth. Its presence did not seem ordinary, and its gigantic glowing red eyes made him feel something was out of place. It deeply unsettled him. Its ears were large and round, similar to that of a mouse. Its arms were bendable and closer to its body than its long, flexible legs. The body was heavier in the bottom and kind of reminded the witness of a kangaroo body, but it was completely gray. He wasn't certain if it had short hair or if its body was just colored gray. It had a skinny tail that was similar in appearance to a rat's tail, but it was much longer and slightly wider. He had barely noticed the creature's tail until it maneuvered out of the way of the garbage can. After that, it stared at Park for about 3 to 4 more seconds, then it dropped the trash forcefully like a human would with both hands. It was standing upright and appeared to be over 3 feet tall. The creature...
This guy saw a raccoon with mange. I'm like 100% sure that's what he saw. A raccoon with mange.
Bent down to the ground and jumped forward on all fours, then got up a bit and turned to the left to aim for the woods. It reached for the ground again with its front arms and jumped forward with its back legs, swinging in front of it like a rabbit. The creature did not make any sounds that the witness could hear with his windows open, and it did not try to attack or hiss at him. Park desperately wanted to turn his car around and go back. He wanted to know exactly what this creature was, though he had a nagging feeling that if he did, things would not end well for him. This case was reported to the Mutual UFO Network.
It definitely sounds like a raccoon that lost its fur. They look quite strange. The description. Hold on. Let me show you. Let's see. Here we go. We are, yeah, like this and like that. That does look like what he's talking about, right? Let's open image in, so I want to zoom in on it a little bit. Yeah, oh my gosh, look at that. Someone told you, oh, that's a hairless kangaroo. You'd be like, okay. Right, but we know it's a raccoon because we know it's a raccoon, but it's easily mistaken, right? Look at these. Dog-like head, as described, right? I always like this one. This one's not gray though. This one's got a white body, but a lot of them are gray or even black. Depends on their on just their phenotype. But they look freaky when you take their hair off. And maybe even a little scary if you don't know what you're looking at. We already watched you. This by the way is beyond creepy is what we're looking at right now.
March 1st, 2008, Gardnerville, Nevada, 11 p.m. Sarah Coyne, a pseudonym, was getting ready to turn in for the night. She had flipped off her lights when her border collie Australian Shepherd started barking at something outside. She initially assumed a raccoon or skunk was prowling around in her backyard. Since she had some 30 ducks, 3 hens, and a goat, the occasional furry nighttime visitor was to be expected. The quacking of her ducks soon added to the chorus of barks. She decided to go and have a look, walking into the living room and flipping on the outside deck light. She peered out towards the back where the ducks were, and suddenly there stood a strange creature on her second step. Coming up the deck right in front of her, she jolted back. Her dog was going berserk, barking at the creature just outside the door, about 4 feet away. Coin stared at the creature, trying to figure out exactly what it was. It stared back at her. It had black eyes, a real thin face, and it looked incredibly old. It had long black and silver hair going down its back, and she could not see its legs. It was definitely some type of creature she had never seen before. After it had stared at Coin for about 30 seconds, the creature moved back and then leapt backwards, quote, like a kangaroo. The whole time it was looking at her as it hopped over to the northern fence, and eventually disappeared into the darkness. Coin was not frightened, but she elected to remain inside, unsure of what the creature was. For reasons she could not quite define, she sensed that the creature was, quote, intelligent.
I don't know. The description here is very vague. A creature moving on 2 legs with silver hair. Not anything about it being kangaroo-like, but this is maybe double monkey territory.
Report appeared in Stephen Wagner's Your True Tales. In late January 2004, near Romero, Chile, Robert Ayar Roja and Maribel Anarcara and their daughter,
moving into South America now,
Daphne, were driving on an isolated road surrounded by woods when they suddenly spotted a bizarre creature on the road ahead of them. It stood on 2 feet, was totally covered with hair, and had bright red eyes. It was standing bent forward on 2 large hind legs, similar to a kangaroo. It had 2 small hands, which it moved very rapidly. Roja recalled that upon seeing their car, the creature seemed, quote, afraid. As if reacting, it suddenly jumped away at an incredible speed into the woods. Roja slowly brought the car to a halt. He and his wife took a few minutes to recover from the shock of what they had seen. Neither had any idea what it was or could be. They then drove away quickly from the area. Roberto and Maribel, in speaking to Chilean investigators.
So in South America, you run into, there's not raccoons, but there's their whole extended family. There's Codys and Kinkajous and Olingos and all these variety of other procyonids with little hands, with mobile hands with thumbs that look like little people hands. There's a myriad of them in South America. I'm not saying that's what they saw here. I don't know. There's not a good enough description of it beyond that it had little hands and ran into the woods. How big it was. That it had fur and red eyes, but any animal with a tapetum lucidum, the thing in the back of the eye, is going to have glowing eyes and when caught in the headlights. So that's not really giving me any details about what it could be, or at least not narrowing it down very much for me.
Liliana Nunez and Hector Cosillo L. reported that what scared them the most was the 2 large protruding fangs from the creature's upper mandible. They noted that the creature bounded away in an unnatural manner. Thankfully, their daughter slept through the encounter. Curiously,
I don't know if fangs don't fit a kangaroo description either.
In the nearby town of Boone, another motorist struck a similar creature, apparently without hurting it, and hairs possibly belonging to the creature were found on the scene.
Punta Maria.
July 2003, on a snowy evening, Sergio Gordy was traveling on Route 3 in Punta Maria, Argentina. He was in a truck with 5 other family members. The weather was so bad that high beams were required to see. Suddenly, one of the family members pointed to what they thought was a horse on the road straight ahead. As they inched closer,
this is the one we were started at. That I had to rewind from. So, yeah, again, if it's big enough that you think that you mistake it for a horse, that's not a kangaroo either.
Quickly realized that it was not a horse. Then, as they drove by it, the creature began chasing the truck using strange leaps and bounds that made it look like it was staying in one place, but it was actually moving at a high speed. It suddenly stopped on the embankment and jumped over the road in one bound, disappearing into the distance. Gordy noted that the creature was similar to a large kangaroo with short arms and long hind legs. Its head was close to its body, and it was dark brown in color and was about 6.5 feet tall. In their write-up on the case, the UFO-based website Eugenia Tate claimed that there had been other encounters with the same or similar creature in the area over the years. February 2003, near Izmit, Turkey. Adalar Zeynep, a pseudonym, was in his...
See, I told you we get to Europe. See, I was spooky. There are European ones too. We haven't got any the UK yet, but we still got 9 more minutes of this video. There might be some UK kangaroo. You kangaroos.
Vehicle entering a viaduct or bridge, which was about 90 kilometers from Istanbul. He slowed his car to about 120 kilometers. That was when his car's headlights caught sight of a bizarre animal or creature crossing the road just ahead of him. It sort of leapt into the highway from behind the barrier. It then bounded across the highway. Zeynep found the fashion in which it was running peculiar. He noted that it was arching its back as its head was still held low in between its shoulders. It had a shiny gray, silvery colored body and no tail. The witness hit the brakes in order to give it more time to get across. Just as it got across the 4 lanes and reached the mid-barriers, it stopped and rose up on its hind feet. It stood just as a kangaroo would stand and looked around. The creature stared at Zeynep's headlights as though it was mesmerized for a few seconds. Its forelegs were long enough to touch its knees. Its eyes reflected the headlights in green. By then, Zeynep had come to within 30 meters of it. It had a slight hunch while standing up, and he estimated that its height was about 5.5 feet tall when standing upright.
Damn.
Then it leapt across...
That's a pretty big animal. It could be a kangaroo. 5.5 feet tall, biped. Yeah, it could be a kangaroo. I'm not saying it couldn't. It could also be a lycanthrope. We are, in Europe, so that's their natural habitat.
Crossed the middle barrier and bounded across the other side of the highway, which headed east. Zainab further described the creature as having fairly large eyes and no hair. This case was reported to Vince and Jane Font of the Castle of Spirits website and podcast. Alan Rosales, author of the Humanoid Journals, he took an interest in this case, and he noted how similar this creature sounded to a chupacabra, though he'd never heard of a chupacabra encounter in Turkey.
Chupacabra wouldn't be in Turkey, but
Sienna, Pokri.
I mean, it wouldn't be a chupacabra. They'd have to have a different local name for it, right? Instead of the Turkish delight, the Turkish defright, maybe. I don't know how you say goat sucker in Turkish, so.
Panama. One evening in early August 2002, Luis Alfredo Diaz claims that he heard loud noises coming from his terrace patio, where the kitchen was located. Luis had called to his wife, who went out to see. He too got up and went to investigate. There he discovered his cat laying dead. Diaz could see 2 obvious holes on the neck and some blood on the floor. Maria, his wife, was standing in front of him. A panic-stricken look came over her face. Turning around, Luis was confronted by a bizarre 3.5-foot tall humanoid, which had jumped to the center of the patio. Luis described the creature as thin, covered with dark hair.
Why would you describe, if it's a humanoid, it's not a kangaroo. You're supposed to be talking about kangaroos. You said this video is titled Strange Kangaroos. You described it as humanoid, it's not a kangaroo. Morning, Sumami.
Large pointed ears that almost covered its face. It had very large eyes and extremely strong hind legs, resembling that of a kangaroo. Terrified, he ran to his son's bedroom and carried him outside, yelling for his neighbors. He and the other neighbors searched the area, but failed to locate anything.
West Covina.
This final case was reported directly to Albert Rosales, author of the Humanoid Journals. It happened in 2001. The witness was living in a hilly neighborhood in West Covina, California. She found herself waking up at 2 a.m. to the sound of all of her dogs, quote, literally screaming. She had 2 pit bulls and 1 husky. She got up and went to investigate, was riling up her dogs. In the front yard, she observed 2 bizarre creatures. They were about 7 feet tall and were sitting on their hind legs. They were furry, their ears were rounded, and their faces had a white trim of fur, and they looked like a cross between a raccoon and a monkey-type creature, with kangaroo legs. From what she could tell, they were holding a pine cone, apparently examining it. When they saw the witness, both creatures took off up the side of the hill. Their legs seemed to be strangely inverted. The next day, she called the Animal and Game Department and reported it. Curiously, every day for the next week, she received calls from that department wanting to know each and every detail of the encounter.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to slander the kangaroo men. The kangaroo men are different, though. They're a special category all their own.
According to the witness, quote, they obviously knew something because they were very interested.
I don't know about the description here. So far, I mean, it sounds like, I don't know why it couldn't be beer, but maybe the witness would be like, how dare you say that I mistake a bear for a kangaroo? But she didn't really describe a kangaroo either. This video has been kind of like not kangaroos. The first video was more kangaroos. And we actually had kangaroo videos. This is just sightings of things that I guess he said he was going to lean more into the strange kangaroo sightings. Okay. And this channel is, again, it's beyond creepy, but seriously, he does like 4 minutes of outro stuff. Like this 18-minute video. The video is over. And we're at 14 minutes. He's got a lot of patrons, which is awesome. Good for you. You got 202K subs, so that makes sense. You have a lot of patrons to help and support you. But you can make it faster than this, I think. You probably, I think having your patron scroll longer than a minute, unless your video is over an hour long, is a little excessive, if it's that much of it. But you do you. I'm not telling you how to run your channel. Obviously, you're much more successful than me. You've got 202K. I've got like 1.1K. So, yeah, you're orders of magnitude bigger than me. Just saying. So, we had this channel, which also covered the topic, but is much smaller. This is the Crash Course in Cryptozoology channel is 3.29, but I don't think that this one's so much of a content mill as this one is, as these guys are. This is more like a What Op or Scary Cherry kind of channel, whereas this is actually real people that they're part of the cryptozoology community doing their videos. So actually, I appreciate this type of content much more than the other one that's just schlock. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're just a really successful independent content maker. But it seems like this is a channel where they like pay a narrator to read it, and they have a script writer to write it, and have a research team to research it and all that. Whereas this seems like it's just the cryptozoologists themselves, which, you know, I'm part of that community, so I appreciate. So both of y'all keep up the work, though. You're giving me lots of content to work with these strange creatures. Anyway, that's our cryptic corner for today. We got some out of place kangaroos beyond kangaroos. They're hopping all over the place. You know, when they got off Noah's Ark, some of them must have got lost getting their way back to Australia or something. Stick around because we're gonna have some of the cringiest bad archaeology that is extremely racist and gross in just a minute with none other than a freaking Robert Zephyr. To my Cryptic Corner crew, thank you so much for sticking around. It's been a delight going through these hoppy boys with you. If you have a kangaroo sighting or you know of a kangaroo sighting, please let me know in the comments down below. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time.